Hello, and welcome again to Stone Creek Turnings. For this week's project, I'm going to try something that I have never really seen done before, so we'll see if it works or not. I'm actually going to make a bowl, or finish this bowl, and I'm going to drill holes in it and do some inlay colored pencils. Now, I've seen a lot of people make bowls like gluing pencils together and then turning it like that. What I'm going to try to do is actually have the colored pencils pushed into holes in the bowl itself and just kind of have like dots of different colors in here. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to turn out, but again, I'm anxious to see how it's going to look when it's done. This bowl has been drying for a little over a month. I kind of want to try to do one that has a nice light color so the dots will show up really well. It's about 3/4 of an inch out of round right now. So I'm going to true this up to see what it'll look like when it's done and kind of get a better idea of the wall thickness. Then I'm going to maybe do some spiral or some planned out circles where I can drill the holes for the pencils. I'll cut the pencils to an appropriate thickness, glue them in place, and once the glue dries, I'll put it back in the lathe, turn it, and see how it all turns out. So let's get started. And as long as I see some shadowing right here, I know that it isn't round yet. So that's always a good indication of how far you still need to turn. Unfortunately, this bowl skin is so thin, I won't be able to use it for the project. Well, that didn't go exactly how I planned. The bowl ended up being way too thin to actually put to drill holes through there. So I went ahead and just finished it, and it is extremely light. And if you hold up to a light, you can see light right through it. So I think it'll end up being a really nice platter, but not for my intended purpose. So I think I'm going to try a different bowl. This one's a box elder with just a tiny little bit of the red in there. The walls are a lot thicker, so I think that by the time I rough turn it, I'll have plenty of material left over to actually try to inlay some colored pencils. So let's try it again. Okay, so I've roughed out my second bowl, and I am ready to start drilling some holes and putting the pencils in. In order to figure out what diameter my colored pencils are, I just use one of these handy drill charts, and I know that closest size is 9 3/2. I just happen to have a handy 9 3/2 drill bit here, so that should be good. It's about a half-inch diameter or half-inch wall thickness, so should have plenty of body to really hold that pencil in there when I glue it in place. I think what I'm going to try to do is actually do like a spiral pattern going out. I think that could look interesting. So now I'm going to put it back on the lathe, just manually spinning it by hand, and draw some lines in there and a grid so I can kind of get a very symmetric spiral going out. Okay, in order to get a good spiral, I went ahead and every half inch made a ring around, and then every increment of my lathe I did a line this way, so it should be like 24 lines. I think I'm going to either do every other or every one, depending on how it looks. I'll probably spin this around on my different chuck, so I can hold the edge of it, and continue making rings going towards the middle, because I actually want the spiral to go towards the middle of the bowl and not just on the outside. All right, as you can see, I decided to go with the 2 spirals going in and out. I think more than that, and you might lose kind of some of the detail of the spirals, and you might not be able to see that it actually is a coherent pattern. So next step will be to actually drill out all these holes. I think I'm going to do that by hand because they're all at a slightly different angle. All right, now that I have all the holes drilled out, I think that'll be a really interesting looking pattern when it's all done. Now I'm ready to actually start cutting up the colored pencils and plugging those holes. The nice thing about having the holes, I drilled them big enough so that I can actually fit my depth gauge. So I know that a lot of the holes up here are about 5/8 in diameter, and in here they're actually about 1 inch thick. So I'm going to cut some pencils so they'll fit the whole way through, so that when I actually finish turn this, make it thinner, no matter which way I go, I know that there will be a pencil behind there. I've actually marked out my bandsaw at a 5/8 spot and a 1/8 spot, so that I can kind of consistently cut it to the right length. And I'll probably just be using as many different colors as possible to make it more interesting. All right, I have all of the smaller, the 5/8 colored pencils cut for the outside holes. I have the 1 inch pencils cut for the inside thicker holes. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to bevel the edges to make it easier to actually insert the pencils in there. I'm going to cover them with some wood glue and then tap them in the holes and then let it dry for a while, and then I'll be ready for the final turning and I guess the final reveal to see what it looks like. Okay, I'm all finished with putting the pencils actually in the wood. It's all glued up. Now I just need to let it dry for a while, and it should be ready for final turning. The pencil links that I made seem to be really good. Really no wasted pencil in there. Just a few millimeters here and there. The glue is a tight fit, so the glue kind of squeegeed off, and I think it should turn out really well. Well, this is the final inside look to it. I've already gone through, put some mineral oil on there, and then wet sanded it. So that should be pretty much the shine and the shimmer of the finished product. I also did about 1 inch over the rim as well, so that when I turn it over and work on the other side, I'll be able to sand the back without having to worry about getting my sandpaper all full of mineral oil. And I'll kind of be able to blend it in. And then the front and the back will both be completely finished and sanded and be finished. All right, I've reached the end of another project. This colored pencil bowl, the method was really easy. I think the hard part is really getting a great pattern that you'll like, and it'll be really eye-catching. Several lessons I've learned with this one. Make sure you start out with a blank that has the walls thick enough so that in case it's warped, as in this one, you have enough material left to actually push the pencil in. Another thing is if you're going to bevel the holes before you put the pencils in there, don't put too big of a bevel on there. A few of these I had to cut a lot more wood off than I expected to get to where the bevel wasn't showing anymore. Beyond that, there wasn't really anything crazy with this. My kids absolutely love this. I like it too. I think it turned out really well. It definitely made this bowl a lot more interesting than it would have been otherwise. And all in all, it's a really easy, fun project to try and just be as creative as you want. So this is Eric with Stone Creek Turnings, and I hope to see you again.